Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible. God bless the United States. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country.
He says rectum damn near killed him.
All right, let's just jump right into it. Lots to cover today. We're going to be all over the place. I appreciate you joining me once again. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. That's if you like what you're hearing. If you like what you're seeing, it's free to do so. You can throw some emojis in the chat. Let me bring in the chat now that we speak of the devil. Appreciate you guys once again. Thank you for everything that you do. Pam, Joe, Patui, how are you? What's up, Roxanne? What's up, Petrazi? What's up, Yakov? What up, Adam? Appreciate you guys. What's up, Salty, JD, Adam, Mr. Farce? How are you, my friend? What's up, Deb? Hi, Rosanna. How are you? What's going on, guys? What's up, Lady J? All the mods. Appreciate you guys. What's up, Gamer? How's everybody doing? Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Appreciate you guys as always. What's up, Mr. Spa? Carol, how are you guys? Everybody. It's congregating in. I appreciate you guys. I'll let you filter in. But yeah, lots to discuss today. It's Tuesday, December 2nd. Can you believe that? Can you believe it's already December? Like we're already past Thanksgiving, on our way to the Christmas season. Oh my God, it goes fast. It really goes fast. But lots to talk about. Obviously, the Pete Hegseth discussion is still ongoing. That'll probably take up the majority of what we'll be discussing today. We'll be taking a look at a lot of people's opinions on that, both left and right. We'll be looking at, I believe, CNN had somebody on, a former prosecutor in the ICC, the International Criminal Court, who has his opinions on this. So we'll be taking a look at that. We'll also be taking a look at Dan Bongino. And let me put this on the screen because it'd probably be easier to follow if I do so. Dan Bongino possibly outed by FOIA emails. Is that what is that what we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen? Let me put this on the screen. FBI's Dan Bongino reacts to Epstein file redactions email. So apparently a FOIA request is now showing the extent to what Dan Bongino actually knew about the information that they had and the information that they were redacting. And then we'll be talking about, again, some conservative commentators picking up on this and calling Bongino out. Yeah, we'll be talking about that as well as Trump's cabinet meeting this morning. We might kind of dive into a couple clips of that first because, Jesus Christ, once again, Donald Trump struggling to keep his eyes open. Never mind. Jesus H. Christ. I hit the wrong. The mouse went flying. It took me offline. What are you going to do? But anyway, yeah, we'll be talking about that, which is, the cabinet meeting. Trump couldn't keep his eyes open, literally falling asleep in the cabinet meeting. But, not to mention not like coherent, not making good points, but struggling to stay awake. We'll also be discussing a video that by Artur Rehi talking about some, the U.S. volunteers on the front lines in Ukraine, which I thought would be good to dive into. But let's dive into this first. Sorry about that. I threw the mouse about halfway across the room, and one of these side buttons I think is like an automatic end the take me out of the studio button. I still got to figure that one out, but my apologies. We're back now. But please hit that like button. I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. Let's dive into this first article that I wanted to talk about here, the Dan Bongino being outed by FOIA requests and emails here. And then we'll get into the conservative commentators calling him out for it. So yeah, as you can see here, this is a Newsweek article. I'm not sure if they were the first ones kind of talking about this or if they're just doing a follow-up on his reactions here. But yeah, this is talking about the release of newly obtained FBI emails concerning the government's review and redaction of the Jeffrey Epstein files has prompted public responses from senior officials, including Deputy Director Dan Bongino. The communications obtained by journalist Jason Leopold through the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, obviously, provide a partial look inside the Bureau's internal, quote, Epstein Transparency Project, end quote, which oversaw the preparation of the files for public release earlier this year. The FBI's formal FOIA request response to Leopold confirms that 220 pages were reviewed and 61 pages released. The remainder were withheld under various exemptions, including those protecting ongoing law enforcement activity, privacy, and investigative techniques. Newsweek contacted the DOJ and FBI for comment via email outside of normal office hours on Monday. This goes into why it matters, kind of goes into the background of it, but I want to go into, kind of what we know about the redactions. Because, again, this kind of goes into Epstein, the disgraced financier, was convicted of sex offense, just kind of giving you like a general runaround. But this is the emails referenced by Leopold and included in the FOIA release depict an expansive, time-sensitive redaction operation. The Bureau describes its work as part of the Epstein Transparency Project, and in some communications, the Special Redaction Project. Right? Okay, so training materials, workflow guidelines, and coordination between multiple divisions, including the OGC and the Information Management Division, are referenced throughout the document set. A March 10th email from Assistant Director Shannon Perry notes the need for guidance from GC on the types of redactions the FBI should apply to these files. Another email from March 22 states that the updated training materials and workflow guidance is expected for dissemination later tonight, reflecting ongoing instructions as personnel prepared files for the Department of Justice review. The FOIA released overtime records show that the FBI personnel devoted 4,737 hours of overtime to project to the project between January and July 2025, with more than 70% of that occurring in March alone. The cost associated with the overtime during the period of March 17 to 22nd alone totaled almost $1 million. So $851,341 spent between March 17th and March 22nd just on overtime on people redacting names and stuff out of these files. According to the table included with the FOIA record set, video and evidence review, the FOIA materials also describe the classification of various categories and videos reviewed, including search, warrant, and execution photos, street surveillance photos, and aerial footage of FBI search warrant execution. A separate email references an April 15 review of video from the New York City jail where Epstein died in 2019. The renewed interest in the Epstein files show legislation signed by the President Trump earlier this month requiring the Justice Department to prepare the records for this release. Let's go into where Bongino knows. So Bongino's public comments here. Right here. Bongino's public comments underscore the Bureau's positions that the emails reflect procedural briefing rather than evidence of improper influence, right? What people are saying. Dan Bongino, FBI director, told Fox News July 26th, what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters, like what bullshit writing this is, has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. And then Jason Leopold, the investigative journalist, through its FOIA request, said, here's a real look behind the scenes at the FBI's review of the Epstein files in March based on emails I obtained via FOIA. Dan Bongino was copied on an email related to guidance on types of redactions to apply, noting that he obviously knew about these things. What happens next? The next phase in the Epstein record saga shifts from the FBI to the Justice Department, which will now decide which portions of the files can be released under the new transparency law we've discussed on this show. That's what everybody was worried about. Pam Bondi is going to overstep her boundaries, kind of overstep her powers here and withhold more information that she should, likely prompting further scrutiny of what remains withheld. Additional FOIA litigation, potential court challenges, heightened congressional interests are expected as journalists, advocates, and victims' attorneys push for fuller disclosure. Let's see. Does it go on here? No. But now we can go on, take a look at this, because this is somebody that we've brought up before to try to reference like what's being said, what's being talked about inside, not maybe like the MAGA base, but just, kind of these conservative Republicans that don't outwardly, apply themselves into the MAGA cult, but still are very heavily watched. Their viewers are very heavily favored towards, that MAGA front. So this is one of the videos that I was talking about here. We don't have to dive too deep into it. We just play that first kind of minute of this video and you'll get the sense of where this video is going. But it's titled FBI's Dan Bongino caught helping redact the Epstein files. Right. So again, conservative commentator, somebody definitely heavily favored by Republicans that watch his show for sure. Right. And that's the title of his video. FBI's Dan Bongino caught helping redact the Epstein files. And this is the first, like I said, I'll play the first minute of it and you can kind of get the sense of how he feels, his take on all of this. And then again, this is being watched by a lot of the people inside the base. So again, going to trickle down elsewhere pretty soon. You can definitely tell. Check this out.
FBI personnel eventually found Patel a jacket belonging to a female because he's so tiny, special agent. But the director noticed 2 areas did not have Velcro patches attached, according to the agent.
And I'll skip where he does his intro because he's just making fun of Kash Patel here for wearing a small jacket. But this is where he kind of rips into it here. Check this out.
The channel, everybody, and I have some absolutely shocking news that is going to shake you to your core. I promise nobody out there saw this coming. And that is that, yes, today, both the FBI's Kash Patel and Dan Bongino find themselves in incredibly hot water for what? More corruption and incompetence. Surprise. I told you, nobody could have seen this coming. Yeah.
Like, he almost sounds like a lib. Like, I mean, he's somebody that sounds like somebody that on his side of the aisle, somebody that watches him would call like, oh, the dumb lib doesn't know what he's talking about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. They're amazing MAGA folks. They're just like upstanding citizens, and you're just a dumb lib. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they sound like now, calling out their own people, calling out the people that they wanted to put in power, the people that they themselves voted to put in the positions that they now hold.
So what's going on? Well, a new scathing report has come out about Kash Patel specifically from a bunch of FBI agents who are now calling him, his coworkers, by the way, the Make-A-Wish director, because from what they're saying, all this guy has done in his tenure is to fly around on a private jet and going to wrestling matches and playing golf. He's essentially...
Okay, not said by me, not said by this like liberal podcast, called out by, again, people on their own side of the aisle. Things that we've already talked about, you know, the abuse of Kash Patel and his powers and the plane and his girlfriend and, you know, taking these trips all around the country, now being called out by them because they're pissed off now that he found, that they're not doing what they're supposed to do as it pertains to the Epstein files, right?
Actually a Make-A-Wish kid. So that's good. And not only that, Dan Bongino, yes, an unfortunate new FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request, pulled emails showing that he has been helping redact Epstein files since March. So, yeah, that's not good. So don't.
All right. So like I said, you don't have to go into too much of this to realize that, you know, they're not standing for this bullshit, or at least a few of them, right? It's beginning to look like they're not going to stand for this bullshit. They're more than willing to call them out. But again, we'll notice the lack of Donald Trump's name being associated with this, the lack of Donald Trump being called out as the ringleader. So you can still see this through line of more than willing to call out Pam Bondi, more than willing to call out Dan Bongino, more than willing to call out Kash Patel, but not going that extra step to associate all of their work with what might be best for Donald Trump or Donald Trump's buddies, right? Remains to be seen. But again, the more and more, the longer this goes on, the more it points to the fact that Donald Trump either has direct financial involvement, direct, criminal involvement as far as, the sexual allegations, both of those, or if he's just covering up for, again, all of his high profile buddies that he's got going on that are still inside of his administration, that still have high profile positions, that still are, CEOs of companies all around the world. But yeah, you can tell how willing they are now to start calling this stuff out. But I'm going to dive. Let's say we'll dive before we get to some of this Pete Hegseth bullshit. Let's dive into a couple of these clips from this meeting this morning, this cabinet meeting this morning, where Donald Trump was, again, struggling to keep his eyes open. Once again, Donald Trump showing his age. Once again, Donald Trump showing that he is completely unworthy of holding the position, the title that he now holds. Not only not making meaningful contributions to the meeting, but again, failing to keep his fucking eyelids from touching the bottom. His top eyelids from touching but couldn't do it. Just couldn't help himself. Well, let's go through a couple of these dumbass clips. Let me see if I'll zoom in just a little bit on these. Make it a little easier to see. And just a couple of these, because this is ridiculous here, what Trump goes on to say, that affordability doesn't mean anything to anybody. The word is a con job by Democrats, he said. So as we're talking about affordability, the cost of living crisis, homelessness on the rise, how difficult it is to, buy a house nowadays, especially if you're, young and up and coming in, the work sphere, right? We talk about price of groceries, price of fuel, price of, heating your house in the winter. Obviously, that's something that's going to be coming up and people are going to be worrying about. Donald Trump, the president, going on national television to say that affordability doesn't matter. Okay, so you guys in the chat, let me know if affordability doesn't matter to you, because I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure it's probably tops on the list, actually, of what you guys are fearful of, worried about, thinking about on a daily basis. But yeah, listen to this bullshit.
I mean, these are the facts we have to get out. And, you know, there's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. They just say the word. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. Just say it. Affordability. I inherited the worst inflation in history. There was no affordability. Nobody could afford anything. The prices were massively high. Do you remember when we took over eggs? You did a great job on that.
I mean, just imagine telling everybody right now, and he's only doing himself more harm, right? He's only doing himself more discredit. He's only going to help further lower his polls that we've seen, you know, his historically low poll numbers we've seen recently and talked about on the show. But it's fucking, I mean, it's how out of your mind stupid do you have to be and like detached from reality do you need to be in today's society to talk about how affordability is like a myth? Like, people don't care about how affordable stuff is. Nobody cares about how much stuff costs, you know? Like, I couldn't even imagine, like, imagine his team as he's saying that. It's probably like, no, like, what are you doing, you fucking fool? Oh, what's up, Slacks? Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you, man. Slava Ukraina, Heroyam Slava, right back to you from everybody here at Blunt Politics. Happy post-Thanksgiving to you as well. Appreciate you for being here once again, my man, as always. But thank you. Yeah, and there's a multitude of different ways in which you can contribute to the show if you're in the financial position to do so. As I always say, if you're not in the financial position to do so, please just like, share, and subscribe. Free things that go a long way in helping the show. Throw a couple paragraphs in the chat there. Do what you can. But yes, if you're in the financial position to do so, there's a Venmo up in the corner. You can sign up for a channel membership on YouTube just underneath me. There's patreon.com/BostonBrian. And, you know, you can send a super chat, super sticker, all that, now that the self-promotional bullshit's out of the way. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't even fathom going in front of the American people right now and be like, yeah, you're an idiot. Affordability is a Democrat scam. Like, he doubles down on it as well. He's just that stupid.
And it didn't have much of an impact because the prices were very high. But our prices now for energy, but for gasoline, are really low. Electricity's coming down. And when that comes down, everything comes down. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. They say it, and then they go to the next subject, and everyone thinks.
I don't even know what that means.
No, they had
I honestly have no fucking idea what that means. But no, oh no, what an idiot! Let me see here. Can you go back if you exit out something and bring it back up? Because I actually had it pinpointed at the exact moment where Donald Trump was falling asleep, and I just hit the wrong button on it. Let me see if I can go to my history for a sec. Let me see if I can go history. Man, what a dummy. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because this is it. And they do, and Newsmax doesn't do them any favors either, because they do this like long close-up of them. Man, I had it all set up too. Is this it right here? Let me see. It's so good because Newsmax, I think it's Newsmax, but they do this like zoom up on him, and you can see right away that Donald Trump is not, he's struggling mightily to keep his fucking eyes open. Was it the Fox? Maybe it's this one. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh no. I worked so hard to find in that where he's fucking the exact moment too. But you can see here, check this out. Check this out. Ready? My mouse is all messed up for some reason. It's not working right. When I threw it across the room by accident, something happened to it. I don't know why it's not working. How do I fix that? I don't know. But yeah, like you can see already, you don't even have to get to any specific point in this. Like you can see he's got that like, okay, I'm straining to keep my eyes open already.
Farmers back at the center of it. And under the last administration, we talked a lot about affordability. We'll continue to talk about that. But under the Biden administration and the destruction of our economy and the cost of inflation, interest rates for farmers and ranchers went up 73%. Labor went up 40%.
Don't you put your head back? Put your head back. And I think it's worse when there's somebody else speaking, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find this other moment. Because he actually has the goddamn eyes closed. And it might have been just before that. Yeah, check this out. Ready? Right here he is. There he is. Check this out.
In public housing, we've been very focused on working with the Memphis Safe Task Force, the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force, working with Pam and Christy and others, and law enforcement. Our law enforcement is tremendous.
Struggling.
Every
Yep,
single
nod your
night
head.
they go out and they go to public housing to make sure that our people are safe, mothers and children are safe. And so it hurt me, and I'm gonna be honest, that they will be safe. We also announced a new crime hotline, sir.
Oh, is he going?
That people that live in public housing.
He's going.
Drug trafficking. If you see it, if you hear
Look, it's just remarkable. Like, this is happening so much more frequently now. Like, it used to be like, oh, every once in a while you'd catch him on a fucking bad night where he didn't sleep. He was up too late fucking thinking about golf, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? But this is like, this is becoming a lot more frequent here. This is becoming like pretty much every time they stick him in front of a camera, he's at risk of either saying something absolutely asinine, lying through his teeth, or falling asleep directly in front of your face. And again, he's choosing the latter of the latter of those decisions here on Fox Television.
report it. Don't be afraid. And so work with our Office of Inspector General.
Does nobody in the room notice
secure
this?
and free, and being the president of peace. I'm grateful to be in this position as your director of national intelligence.
I'm sorry. I don't know why it keeps fucking up like this the most. But yeah, does nobody in the room notice this, ladies and gentlemen? Like, somebody has to be like giving him a nudge, or like, should we wait for you to take a nap, or like, let's end this before he passes out in front of the entire fucking country? I don't know. Like, I don't know, but I think it's pretty clear to me that this guy is knackered. I think, as the people in the UK would say, this guy is straight knackered. Jesus Christ.
Next year, hopefully with our vice president, many of our cabinet members. But the opportunity to do that under these new trade deals is unprecedented. And so just putting farmers first, our ranchers first, Mr. President, is such a huge...
Like, his head was literally falling right there. You see that?
So
his head was
putting
starting to go
farmers
right
first,
there. His head slowly going down.
these new trade deals is unprecedented. And so
Right here, ready?
just putting
And
farmers first, our ranchers first,
slowly
Mr. President, is such a huge priority and an accomplishment of the last.
Unreal. Look, that's actually the same face he was making in that video, that photo that was going around to him at Mar-a-Lago. Anybody else see that one? Anybody else see that one where he's fucking like, looked like he just got shot up with some fentanyl, right? Looked like instead of the drug boats that they were striking and the drugs going to the bottom of the sea, looked like they had actually been stealing those drugs, injecting them straight into Donald Trump's vein. Like, he was just like, he was doing the face that he did just before Bubba entered his mouth. Oh, lordy. Jesus Christ. But yeah, that's what was going on this morning. We don't have to get, again, too crazy with that, dive too deep into that. But, the cabinet meeting of cabinet sycophants going around doing their best, praising Donald Trump while Donald Trump sat there sleeping, not listening to a goddamn word that was being said. But yeah, let's dive into... If I can get my mouse to work, would be fabulous. But yeah, let's dive into the ongoing conversation of obviously the ongoing strikes on these Venezuelan boats, whether or not Pete Hegseth is not only responsible for war crimes, but will be held accountable, because I think these are two totally separate conversations that need to be had. I think we all know morally, ethically, legally with our own eyes, we're seeing things that are against the law. But whether or not Pete Hegseth and other people are going to be, prosecuted or held accountable, again, is a totally different question. So we'll be looking at both, people on the left, people from the ICC, and people on the right talking about this, see if we can get kind of, the basis for where this might be going, what the law states, because again, this is, as I said on the show the other day, this is a big gray area. The Trump administration is basically 100% using their justification, their classification of Tren de Aragua as narco terrorists, as a terrorist organization, again, as the justification for them to do anything. Anything that they deem within their power is justified legally under those act. The act of them calling Tren de Aragua a narco terrorist organization. But again, a lot of people are arguing that that doesn't really matter. Even if they're enemy combatants, there are still rules and regulations and ways to go about stuff that happens on the water, right? Like maritime law, stuff, acts of war on the water are a lot different than, a war carried out on land or actions carried out on land and what happens there. So a lot different. A lot of people arguing none of that even it matters whatsoever. And, a lot of others are thinking that that's right. So let's dive into a few of these different videos that we got. No, that's Donald Trump sleeping again, but this is the one that I wanted to watch here. So this is Midas Touch, just kind of giving us the lowdown again, just a minute or two from this, and then we got a couple from CNN talking about it, and then again we'll hop over to the right side of things. Newsmax also had what's the guy named Judge Napolitano or something like that, and I think you'll be surprised at what you hear from him on Newsmax. So let's dive into it. Let's get into this Midas Touch video, just a couple minutes, and then we'll dive on to CNN. Let's get all the information, the facts and figures correct, and then we can make the best assessment of what may or may not happen going forth here in the future. All right. Appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. Again, I'm Boston Brian. This is Blunt Politics. If you just joined me, I really do appreciate it. If you're kind of tuning in for the first time, giving me the opportunity, I really do appreciate it. Thanks for your time. That is probably the most meaningful thing that you have in your life. So I appreciate you sharing it with me. Thank you very much. What would be great is if I kind of also put what I'm watching on the screen for you guys to watch. Would probably be helpful. I have been told once or twice that on YouTube, if you're doing a live stream and you're talking about something, you should show the audience what you're looking at. It's probably helpful. All right, let's go.
Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are throwing members of the military and Department of Defense workers under the bus for the murder of these survivors of war.
Right, and this is another huge aspect. I forgot to mention this, that you can kind of tell now that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are slowly starting to panic a little bit, or they're at least starting to see that, there's not smooth sailing up ahead for them, right? That like this isn't going away anytime soon. And they're now starting to throw the commanders in this situation under the bus. And I know that. Like you can prove that's a fact already, that you know that they're trying to throw these people under the bus because you know their names, right? Because you know Admiral Bradley's name right now. Like you should not know their names. Typically, if Pete Hegseth really had the backs, like really had these commanders and was trying to defend and uphold what they were doing, you wouldn't know their names. He wouldn't come out and name these people. In my opinion, of course, obviously my opinion. They would stay in the shadows, right? He would take all of the brunt for this. Like he would take all of the backlash if there were any, and would say, no, this is my order. These were my commands. They were lawful commands. If he deems them to be lawful, whatever, we don't deem them to be lawful. But this is what Pete Hegseth could say, right? Without coming out and be like, no, it was Admiral Bradley. This guy did it. Admiral Bradley's the guy responsible. I kind of just gave the basis for the orders, but he was the one that undertook that second strike, right? You know what I mean? So it's like you shouldn't really know who the hell these commanders were. Really, if it took place the way it was supposed to happen, he'd remain in the shadows. You'd never know. And if it was really above board and legal, then Pete Hegseth should have absolutely no problem taking, again, the brunt of all of this without naming the soldiers, the commanders involved in this. And that's just something that I picked up on. Just the fact that who was involved in this and the commander involved, and Pete Hegseth is openly giving you his name, is kind of Pete Hegseth there trying to pass the buck, right? Saying, oh, don't look at me. I kind of gave the initial order, but, that second strike that everybody's so mad at, that was Admiral Bradley. And, backhandedly, he's like, well, I support him. And that's it's great. And I have no problem with anything that he did, but I just want you to know that it was Admiral Bradley that undertook. I'm fucking just knocking over everything today. But it was that admiral that undertook that second strike. Just so you know, I support it, but it was him, not me.
Strikes of the fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela. Initially, Donald Trump said that Pete Hegseth told him that there were no strikes involving the survivors. Then the White House changed its story yesterday and said there were strikes that occurred, but it was done at the order of Admiral Mitch Bradley along with SEAL Team 6.
So the fact that we even know that this gentleman was involved, right? This commander was involved, and he was the one that gave the order supposedly to conduct that second strike is a problem, in my opinion. It's a problem that we know, and we have the Secretary of Defense out here outing our commanders, trying to pass the buck, trying to, again, put them in harm's way. We said on the show the other day that these commanders, I didn't know at the time who it was, but I said specifically that this commander now just interjected himself into this, possible criminal situation. And now Pete Hegseth named that commander and is now, again, outing him as responsible for that second strike, trying to, again, do it in a way where he says he's backing him up, where he supports the action. But again, in my opinion, the fact that we even know his name, the fact that it's even being brought up and mentioned is just a way for Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump to pass the buck. You just heard, and as Donald Trump said on Air Force One, Pete Hegseth said there was no, order for the second strike. There was no kill them all type of order. And then they go on to change their stance that no, there was, but it wasn't given by Pete Hegseth. It was given by this, it was undertaken by this, this commander alone. And here he is, by the way. Here's his face. Here's his rank. Let's plaster that all over the place because that's, something that we should always do.
Then Pete Hegseth put out an official statement saying, let's make one thing crystal clear. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. America is fortunate to have such men protecting us. When this Department of War says we have the back of our warriors, we mean it. And you see,
and what the thing is what these commanders and what these servicemen and women have to remember, right? That no matter how much Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump and the rest of these people, Pam Bondi, claim to have their back, claim to, stand behind them and will support them and defend them, whatever it comes down to, they have to understand, these people, that if you're planning on serving as a career in the military, you will outserve this administration, right? So inevitably, you will see a Democrat or a switch in the House, a power in the House, a switch with the power in the Senate, right? So you cannot sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and Donald Trump's always going to have my back. Pete Hegseth's always going to have my back. And even if it is illegal, they'll protect me from their DOJ because they control the DOJ. You're going to have to pay the piper at some point. At some point, somebody either in the White House, the Senate, because we now know that both House and Senate Foreign Arms Committees have taken up investigations, taken a look at this, right? And, the power switches every so often inside of Washington, and you may not find yourself, being not supported, but defended by this administration for eternity, right? You're eventually going to have to face somebody, a time where you're going to have to face some injustice and accountability. So you're putting yourself in those shoes by following these illegal orders, right? And again, it puts these people in incredibly difficult positions. Nobody's saying that it's easy for an admiral, a career, a Navy man to say, no, I'm not going to do that, or I refuse that order, sir. We completely understand, but and this is what they're getting you into. These are the positions they're getting you into: possible legal liability, possible prosecution of war crimes, military tribunal type of things. You know what I mean? So, just be careful. That's what the warning was from the senators. That's what the warning was from people like Mark Kelly. You know what I mean? It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be held responsible for the actions, for the orders of people like Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, is basically the gist of that fucking video that was put out by those 8 senators, or that either were veterans themselves or had served in the intelligence community.
Throwing Admiral Mitch Bradley under the bus right there. It's no wonder why the former 4-star admiral who was in charge of Southern Command, Admiral Alvin Hoseley, abruptly resigned from his position in October. There were war crimes being committed, and 4-star Admiral Hoseley, now retired 4-star Admiral Hoseley, saw that the admirals were going to be blamed for these war crimes, and we're seeing Mitch Bradley get blamed for it as well. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, if Admiral Bradley didn't realize before that these cowards were setting him up to take the fall, he knows it now. Time to hire a good lawyer. Now, lots of people within the Department of Defense, high-ranking people and high-ranking military officers, see exactly what Hegseth and Trump are doing. The latest scoop from the Washington Post, who's been breaking a lot of these stories. The following was the headline: Hegseth, with White House help, tries to distance himself from the boat strike fallout. As Congress vows accountability, the Trump administration emphasized it was a top military commander, not the defense secretary, who directed the engagement. Now, here's what we're hearing from the Department of Defense. Her scripted remarks, referring to Caroline Leavitt blaming Admiral Bradley for these strikes, elicited a furious backlash within the Defense Department, where officials described feeling angry at the uncertainty over whether Hegseth would take responsibility for his alleged role in the operation or leave the military and civilian staff under him to face the consequences. This is protect Pete bullshit, one military official who, like others,
and this is like something you'll hear from multiple different videos, and not just this one, but you'll also hear it from other videos where it's multiple military officials that are seeing the writing on the wall, that are seeing what's going on here, and it's seeing that it's Pete Hegseth trying to pass the buck, right? While seeming like they're giving commendation, seeming like they're giving praise to this admiral, while at the same time kind of hanging him out to dry, leaving him sitting on the bookshelf in case criminal prosecution does come down the line. They have somebody that they can point the finger at, right? I may have given the overall order, but as per that second strike, they're going to point to the admiral, even though Pete Hegseth was on Fox News saying that he was watching that specific strike live from whether, and I don't know if it was the Situation Room or some war room and somewhere else, but he was watching that live per his own words. So very well could have, given that the order for the second strike. But we'll have to see what the investigations by both the House and the Senate, produce, and see what goes on from there. But yeah, let's see if we can go on to this other video, because, just to kind of get the gist of how everybody's feeling about this. This was just kind of another aspect of this as well. Let me throw this on the screen. Share this tab instead. Just kind of spread it around. This was just the new developments. White House Hegseth shift responsibility for the double tap boat strike. Let's just see what this have to say, and then we'll get into some more of the commentary from the Republican side, the conservative side, and see what they're saying about this. Because good to be balanced and see what our opponents, our enemies, are talking about as well. All right, let's dive in.
This morning, shifting responsibility and evolving narratives. The White House is distancing itself from a deadly attack in the Caribbean that has raised questions about possible war crimes. It has now confirmed that the U.S. military did launch a second strike on a boat allegedly tied to a Venezuelan cartel on September 2nd. Sources told CNN there were survivors hanging on the disabled boat after the first attack, and that a second strike killed them all. The White House is drawing a distinction here, saying the final order for the follow-up strike did not come from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, saying instead it came from U.S. Navy Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley. The White House.
See how they're directly putting this guy on the line, like hanging him out to dry. But it's strange to hear that, Pete Hegseth did say himself that he was watching these strikes live. So whether or not he has the ability to then give commands there live, I would assume he does. But, again, we'll have to see what the investigation produces as far as his, direct rhetoric, his direct words in that Situation Room or wherever he was watching from, and since, right?
Is defending Bradley, saying his actions were lawful. Hegseth posted this on social media. I stand by him and the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. Joined now by CNN Chief National Security Analyst Jim Sciutto. I do want to note, Jim, in the Washington Post, there are all kinds of blind quotes from people saying inside the Pentagon concerned that the administration is scapegoating Admiral Bradley here.
So you just heard it there. So the same thing that Ben said in the Midas Touch video, he's talking about these anonymous quotes by different Pentagon officials, different military service members, coming out here and saying that, listen, it seems very clearly as if Pete Hegseth is scapegoating the admiral involved in this, right? Like it's pretty clear to me that there's only one reason why you would plaster his face all out and give him like named recognition in this. It doesn't make sense, really. You'd probably, again, like to keep the people involved in these, covert actions, so to speak, in the shadows, keep them in the, that's where they're best served. That's where they, can best, now that his face is all like, it's kind of not something you'd like seeing, right? So again, this is the through line where not just me, not just people on the left, not just political fucking commentators on both the right and the left are seeing what's going on here, but also the people inside the Pentagon, people inside the military, people that have worked conduct in these agencies, both retired and active, are now seeing like, well, okay, now it definitely seems like he's trying to pass the buck here. And if, the blame game does ever come to the point of prosecution, they're going to be looking to point the finger, at this admiral and not at themselves.
What are you hearing?
It's not just out inside the Pentagon, John. I spoke to a member of Congress and a senator yesterday, both on the relevant committees, the armed services committees, and both of them said to me they view this as the administration throwing Admiral Bradley under the bus here, and that Admiral Bradley should be concerned going forward. And look at that language that you
as should anybody else in a position to receive illegal orders just like this from this, from whether it be Pete Hegseth or anybody else involved, in the higher ups that give these orders, right? I mean, that's why the 8 senators put out their warning. I mean, I don't see a better, a better example of why they put out that video than something that came out not long after that video was put out, right? I mean, this is pretty much the prime example of what they were trying to get through to the commanders just like this. Like, listen, you're putting yourself in harm's way. You're going to be putting yourself in jeopardy of prosecution, and it gets pretty serious when we're talking about, a fucking maritime law. It gets pretty serious when we're talking about, the Navy and their prosecution and what goes on in their code of conduct, what it says in the military code of justice and that sort of thing. Like, it gets pretty serious with these, with the punishments involved. So you better think twice, make sure that the ramifications are what you think they're going to be before you undertake such actions from orders given to you by the higher ups. You know what I mean?
cited, John, combat decisions look at the gentleman there to the right of me on the screen, that he has made. And given that early on, even the president himself said, no, he would not have ordered that second strike. Even the president himself has said publicly that second strike in some way was problematic to him. And after the initial denials where they claimed the Post was making this up and other journalists, et cetera, now the administration said, yeah, this happened, but it was not our decision. It was not the president's decision, not the defense secretary's decision. It was Admiral Bradley. That's notable, and we should watch that space going forward.
Now, all of this, Jim, is happening in this theater where there are 15,000 U.S. troops now stationed, in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela. There has been talk of possible operations on the ground there in Venezuela. President Trump has spoken to the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, by phone. You've got some reporting on the opposition there. What are you hearing?
I spoke to David Smolansky. He is a member of the opposition, also advisor to the opposition leader, Machado. I asked him two things. One, I asked him, does the opposition support this expanding military action, at least the threat of military action on the ground in Venezuela, but also these deadly boat strikes? He didn't want to say no, and I asked him multiple times. He said they support pressure. Didn't say specifically military action, but pressure. But I also asked him, given that they are in close conversation with the Trump administration, did the administration fill them in on the content of Trump's conversations with Maduro? And here's what he said to me. Have a listen.
Well, again, I think it's pretty evident to everybody as to what's going on in this. I mean, this is no longer can be considered about the drugs, considering they're releasing, knockout terrorists from prison. They're pardoning knockout terrorists from prison at the same exact time. They're trying to, get everybody to believe they're undertaking this, overarching complete war on drugs. Like, so you can't have, your cake and eat it too in this situation. You can't get people to believe you're going after drugs while releasing knockout terrorists responsible for bringing in 400 tons of cocaine into this country, or the brothers that we talked about that were cocaine kingpins, again, that were pardoned by somebody else that was pardoned for their drug crimes by Donald Trump in his first administration. I mean, so you can see how, it doesn't match their rhetoric. It doesn't match this war that they're supposedly undertaking. But, let's continue on and keep talking about, this is where they bring in, this is CNN again, where they bring in the ICC prosecutor. He's a former ICC prosecutor, again, the International Criminal Court. So if anybody should know, what's going on, if anybody should know the rules, the regulations, the insight, what's going on with the gray area, because as I talked about in the other show, there's a lot of gray area going on, a lot of different rules and laws and regulatory agencies that are involved here. A lot of it seemingly the Trump administration thinks they can overstep just because they said and have deemed these people to be narco terrorists. That seems to be their main basis, their main fucking legal fucking backstop for all of these attacks. Again, they are only undertaken because they have lawyers that feel like they can, use this, the narco terrorism aspect of this as justification in court for anything that they're undertaking now. But again, this ICC, this former ICC prosecutor seems to think differently. So let's take a look at this. This is, again, CNN bringing in an ICC, former ICC prosecutor, the International Criminal Court, and he weighs in on what's going on here as far as war crimes in the Caribbean, Pete Hegseth, and, that aspect. Check it out.
Come back to that. Our next guest is echoing concerns about that follow-up strike, or that double tap, being a potential crime against humanity. The founding chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Luis.
Oh, so excuse me. I should probably specify the founding chief prosecutor to the International Criminal Court. That's who we're talking about. And he says, quote, "These are criminals, not soldiers. Criminals are civilians. They are criminals, and we should do better at investigating them, prosecuting them, and controlling them, but not killing them." Again, this is Luis Moreno Ocampo, former prosecutor to the International Criminal Court.
Ocampo told BBC News, quote, "These are criminals, not soldiers. Criminals are civilians. They are criminals, and we should do better at investigating them, prosecuting them, and controlling them, but not killing people," he said. And Luis Moreno Ocampo joins me now. It's good to have you, sir. There are so many layers here. I want to start with the big picture of this broad campaign by the US against these drug boats, alleged drug boats. The Trump administration declared the cartel Tren del Agua as a terrorist organization to justify this, quote, war on drugs as a war on terror.
But again, before he goes on to answer the question, I feel like that brings up a whole nother aspect as well. Like the whole deeming these people as narco terrorists and using that narco terrorism aspect as justification for these strikes. Like, wouldn't you then have to go and prove that every single one of these individuals that you took these, and even then it doesn't matter. So again, you use this, take this with a grain of salt, because even this doesn't matter as it pertains to maritime law and how you're supposed to handle different situations on the high seas, even if you are engaged in combat, even if they are seen as combatants. So, again, take this with the grain of salt, but wouldn't you go and have to show proof that every single one of these people was, again, directly and 100% affiliated with any of these agencies, any of these organizations that you put on this list and deemed as narco terrorists? Again, because if they were kidnapped, if they were being abused, if they were being, used and muled themselves by this narco terrorist gang, but not affiliated directly. They're not working, they didn't initiate themselves, but they were being kidnapped. Their families are being held hostage. They're being used and abused, right? They have no other fucking line of work whatsoever in there, whatever it may be, but they're not, they're not in the gang. Because how does that work? See how that's another gray area? Because wouldn't you have to deem, again, and we'll go on to listen to, the Republican commentator kind of try to justify this in his own words. And he kind of gives a land-based argument, which I find to be ridiculous, especially from somebody that served in the military himself as a Green Beret, should know the difference between maritime situations and land-based situations and actions, right? So if you shoot up, and I think we'll talk about it as it goes on. I don't want to get into it too early, but we'll discuss it early. But it's a lot different than things that happen on the high seas, things that happen on the water in the international waters than they do, say in Fallujah or Afghanistan, Iraq. You know what I mean? In different situations there. It's a lot. You have to treat the situation a lot differently, pretty much. So again, just letting him go on.
Is there any legal merit to the argument that these are terrorists and this is a, quote, war?
Well, it's highly disputed. It's not outside the US. All the American military lawyers are against this idea. It's very clear.
So his accent a little hard to understand, but he says that all the military lawyers outside, I believe he says outside of the United States, disagree with this idea. They don't. They see this as being blatantly and patently ridiculous.
These are criminals, but they are not combatants. That's why they should be prosecuted, they could be arrested, but killing people with no trial, that is illegal.
They should be arrested. They should be prosecuted, right? They should be investigated. But what they shouldn't be done, what shouldn't happen is you just killing them outright, because that's just, again, blatantly cold-blooded murder.
Well, let's focus on that September the 2nd double tap strike. What is your reaction to the US move to then kill the 2 survivors of the first?
Well, the first reaction is the first killing is also illegal, because if they are not combatants and they are civilians.
Again, he makes a very specific point to say, listen, I know a lot of people are focusing on that second strike, like not the initial strike, but the strike where the 2 survivors were hanging on to the wreckage, and then they decided to go on and conduct another strike to take them out. Like, I know a lot of people are focusing on that, but even the initial strike, which means the initial strikes in all of these cases, right? So let's kind of talk about what he's representing here. Not just this instance, but in all of these instances that we've seen, in all of these boat strikes, the original strike itself is illegal, right? Because again, these are criminals, supposed and alleged criminals, supposedly transporting and trafficking drugs, right? That in no way makes them enemy combatants, right? That in no way deems them necessary to be murdered, right? Or killed. We have a specific way, a specific policy that has worked for quite some time of intercepting these vehicles, whether, even if we have to take the action of shooting the engines out to make sure that the boat stops, right? Make sure that they surrender. They throw the weapons overboard. We then step on board the vessel. We take them into custody, see what drugs they're trafficking. We investigate them, see who hired them, where they're going, where they came from. We get more information, and then we use that information to work our way up the chain to get more and more of these drugs off the fucking streets, right? Because if you go after the factories in which they're being made, again, probably not inside of Venezuela, but in other areas, Peru, different area, Colombia, Mexico, the precursors in China. If we focused more on that, then we could do a lot more damage than what we're doing with taking out, 85 individuals on so many boats, 20-foot fishing boats here, packed with alleged narcotics. That would have to stop 25 times before they made it to the shores of the United States anyway, because they didn't have enough fuel.
They cannot be killed. Assuming President Trump is right, assuming he got the right to kill drug dealers, the second shooting look illegal in terms of as a war crime. It's a war crime. Why? Because these people.
And again, this is this ex-prosecutor, founding chief prosecutor to the International Criminal Court here. So not Boston Bryan, not Jesse Dollemore, not fucking Midas Touch, not anybody on the none of these dumb libs like that are saying this. This is again chief founding prosecutor to the International Criminal Court, saying, even if you were to assume, even if we do give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt, right, that in some way, shape, or form, that these fucking criminals are to be taken out and to be targeted by missile attacks, that second strike, above and beyond that, would be considered a war crime. You know what I mean? It would be against maritime law, the Geneva Conventions. The whole 9 yards. Every single one of those states that even if it is an enemy combatant, he's no longer posing a threat, right? He's in fucking, he's in danger. He's floating in international waters. He's got no weapons. The drugs are all gone, right? Your role changes in that circumstance, right? That you then have to you switch fucking roles, you switch tactics. You've obtained your objective in destroying the boat, making sure the narcotics don't get to the United States. You are now supposed to be in a life-saving role, fucking in investigating and arresting, detaining role. That's what the next step should be in that circumstance.
Defenseless. They are not more a threat to U.S. The boat was destroyed. They were almost surviving there. You could, in normal war operation, you cannot kill them. And that's why it's against the basic rules the U.S. legal military lawyers are saying.
So again, just to give his, and he goes on to give even, better insights, even more insights, I should say, as to why this is, clearly illegal, clearly couldn't be undertaken. Even if we were at war by Congress, deemed to be at war with these people, like this is still a situation where that second strike wouldn't be fucking, legal. It wouldn't be deemed necessary at all. whatsoever. And, this will continue the, we'll hop over to the right-wing side of things here. Well, this is Newsmax talking about this. And, you can see here just by the title of this where it says everybody involved should be prosecuted for a war crime, says Judge Andrew Napolitano. Right. And, this is on Newsmax, somebody that has, been heavily involved in the right side of things for a while here in Napolitano. But, kind of telling these people that watch Newsmax, and we all know the type of people that watch Newsmax, that every single one of these individuals that is involved in this, from the commander to Pete Hegseth to everybody else, should be investigated and prosecuted. So leaving no ifs, ands, or buts about it here on Newsmax. Let's check it out.
Judge Andrew Napolitano is joining us with this senior judicial analyst. Again, the White House is very clear that they were acting within the scope of the law. The orders were given to take out these boats, and this continues on to their effort to stop drug trafficking here in the States. It does get a little murky of what happened in terms of the orders, who carried what, who said what. Talk to us about that.
Well, I wish the White House would reveal to us the laws on which the president is relying. He says he has an opinion from the Justice Department, but neither the Justice Department nor the White House will offer it for public scrutiny. And it gives me no pleasure to say what I'm about to say, because I worked with Pete Hegseth for 7 or 8 years at Fox News. This is an act of a war crime, ordering survivors who the law requires be rescued instead to be murdered. There's absolutely no legal basis for it. Everybody along the line who did it, from the Secretary of Defense to the Admiral to the people who actually pulled the trigger, should be prosecuted for a war crime for killing these 2 people.
And who would bring
I think that's pretty clear, right? I think that's pretty clear. And again, for that to be said on Newsmax, considering the type of people that watch Newsmax, I think that's probably, going to shock them a little bit. I think they're going to be, they'll probably have a little problem with him saying that on Newsmax. But, he's right. He's just 100% right. I'll throw this on the screen too, because, I threw it in ChatGPT and I just kind of asked it, like, what were the different, areas in which this fucking violated, the Geneva Conventions, the treatment of survivors, maritime law. And, it spit it out pretty blatantly, pretty clearly. The UN Charter, the law of seas, UNCLOS, UNCLOS, right? Customary international humanitarian law, prohibition on aggression, international civil aviation rules, environmental treaties, it just kind of gave everything. And then I went in and specifically said, like, what if these survivors were, not civilians? What if they were considered enemy combatants? Would that change anything? I said for the number 3, you were talking about customary international humanitarian law and civilians. What if they were alleged to be enemy combatants? And it said, great question. Here's what the legal floor drops out under the governments who try to hold the old, quote, well, we thought they were enemy combatants routine. And says, short answer, you don't get to skip protections just because you claim somebody is an enemy combatant. International law doesn't do, trust me, bro. Right? So 1, presumption of civilian status. Under customary international humanitarian law and the additional protocols which many states follow as customary, even if they didn't ratify them, even if there is any doubt about a person's status, they must be presumed to be a civilian. Not kinda, not probably, not until Twitter tells us otherwise. Presumed civilian, period. Governments can't retroactively downgrade civilians to enemy combatants after the fact just to justify an attack. The dog won't hunt legally or morally. 2, even actual combatants get protection once they're shipwrecked. Right. So this is what we were just discussing here. Even if we were under war deemed to be necessary, undertaken by Congress, right, signed by the president, and we had the full act of the military going on in there, it still wouldn't justify that second strike, right? That second strike still wouldn't be justified under these different rules, articles, and regulations. It says, let's say that people are in the water, we're really enemy fighters. Guess what? Once they're wounded, shipwrecked, unable to defend themselves, and in the water after sinking, the order to combat out of the fight and attacking them is absolutely prohibited. So even legit combatants can't be targeted in that condition. You must rescue them, even if they were trying to kill you 5 minutes ago. Right, so that's a big distinction that needs to be made. Under the Second Geneva Conventions, which we talk about a lot here, shipwreck combatants, wounded fighters, enemy sailors who abandon the ship, anyone in the water and or otherwise incapacitated must be rescued, protected, and given medical care. So we must give them quarter. right? Which is something that we failed to do. We denied them quarter in this instance. They're enemy combatants. Let's leave them to the waves. That's a war crime buffet, right? So basically, they're giving you kind of comical suggestions or comical fucking statements that might be heard by these defenders here. 4, alleged enemy combatants still get full protections. Even if they're civilians wrongly believed to be combatants, they get full civilian protections. Even if they're combatants, they get POW out of the fight protections. There is no scenario where alleged combatants equal fair game. International law is built precisely to stop states from inventing excuses after the bodies hit the water. 5, the burden of proof is on the attacker. A state that fires missiles must be able to show who the target was, who they believe the target was a combatant of, why they believe the attack was lawful, why survivors were or were not rescued, and what steps were taken to avoid hitting civilians. Obviously, that doesn't, in international waters, that's probably not relevant in that one, but it says, good luck explaining to the international community or tribunal, depending on how bad the screw-up is. Bottom line, if the survivors of an attack in international waters are civilians mistaken as combatants, they're civilians full protection. Even if they're actual combatants, they have out-of-the-fight protections, full protection. Either way, you must rescue them. You must treat them humanely. You must not attack them again. Anything else equals a potential war crime. So pretty specific on the different rules, regulations, laws, organizations, treaties that this goes against, like blatantly, clearly, without any question. So I'll see if he goes on here at all. But yeah, I mean, not said by me, not brought up by me. I didn't write the rules. I didn't write the laws. I didn't come up with these regulations, but I can damn sure read them, and I can damn sure see what's going on in front of my face and put that to the writings and see that, nope, that ain't fucking adding up. That don't stack up. And that's definitely not what you're supposed to do in that situation.
That prosecution forward.
Military would bring the, because they're all active duty military, not the Secretary of Defense, but everybody else would be subject.
And again,
to,
as I said in the
court
beginning,
martial.
the question of did they do something wrong? Is this illegal? Is a lot different than will they face prosecution? Will we see accountability on this front? Right? Because they might have the 14 best fucking JAG lawyers going around that think they have the best legal justification for these actions, right? And they may be able to present that in some sort of court. Who knows? I don't know. Like you can definitely be sure that there's lawyers behind the scenes, instructing or, going through what's going on here to make sure that they have a rhyme and a reason or a justification to fight for legally in court to make sure that they can back up why they did all this. Whether or not that's bullshit or not, obviously it is, but that doesn't mean that they don't have this somewhere that they're going to fight for. So, it's clear to me that it's illegal. It's clear to everybody else that it's illegal, but whether or not we're going to see, action, justification, accountability, is another story.
I don't know where this is going to go. Republicans in the Congress seem to be as exacerbated by it as the Democrats do. I think it's getting beyond politics now. The killing is out of hand. And this last one, in which Pete Hegseth first denied that he gave the order.
And I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, again, with Donald Trump holding the White House, with the fucking, with the Republicans holding the majority in the Senate and the House. I just don't think that we're in the position right now, again, to see the accountability, to see the action from enough Republican senators and politicians to hold Pete Hegseth's feet to the fire, to hold Donald Trump accountable for these actions, for these strikes. And again, these commanders, again, that are going to be inside the military, even after Donald Trump is dead and buried and another Democrat has taken office, that might be a different story. If the Democrats go in and they hold the House and they hold the Senate and we take over the fucking presidency, it's going to be a horse of a different color. It's going to be a whole different ball game, and whether or not these people are prosecuted, people see and face justice or accountability in actions just like this, because it's coming. People don't forget what happens, and what happens during this administration will definitely be talked about in the next administration, and hopefully we have the power and the numbers to make sure that we hold people accountable. Because that's hugely important, that we have to make sure that people are dissuaded from doing this stuff ever again. We can't make this normalized. We can't let this slide. We can't have people just kind of get off on the basis that, okay, they're not in power anymore, we can't do anything about it. No, we need to make sure that we see these people see justice. We need to see these people face accountability for these actions, so that it makes sure it tells people in the future not to pull these stunts, not to do this type of bullshit when they take over power.
And then the White House said he did give the order. And then the White House said it was in self-defense. Self-defense. You got two people in the ocean clinging to a burning boat to stay alive, and they're going to be killed for self-defense? That doesn't make any sense.
For the viewers that may not know about that part, I have it for them. This is the White House press secretary talking about this being.
This is
conducted in
Caroline's
self-defense.
This is Caroline Levitt's lies about it.
The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States interests. The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict.
Well, the
Again,
law
she went on to throw the admiral under the bus as well.
of armed conflict says survivors have to be rescued. They can't be killed. That's very clear. It's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and it's in federal law.
Again, all of which we've read on the show since these, since these actions started being undertaken. All of which we've read. Clear, plain as day, what you should do in these situations, what you can't do in these situations, and clearly these warnings were not heeded by both the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and the commanders in this situation. But let's dive into another side of the Republican commentary. We just heard on Newsmax something surprising, actually calling for the investigation and the prosecution of everybody involved for war crimes on Newsmax. But let's see if who goes in the other direction. What happens when they talk about going in the other direction and trying to maybe not defend it so much in what they believe is right, but defend it in what they believe is legally, prosecutable, let's say, right? Because I think those are, again, two different stories, whether or not they can be prosecuted, whether or not we're going to see accountability, and whether or not, obviously, we see this as being, the illegal and immoral acts that they are. So let's see if we can dive into this. This is that same gentleman that we were watching in the beginning, and he tries to go on. And again, as a Green Beret, as somebody that served himself, again, maybe he might have some more insights into this than I might, or anybody else too.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And my Secretary of War Pete Hegseth finds himself in incredibly hot water today, as the entire internet has officially designated him a war criminal for his orders that he carried out on an airstrike on a Venezuelan narco-terrorist boat back in September. And yeah, so much so that the Senate Armed Forces Committee has announced they will also be investigating him. Now, I want to let you guys know up front, if you just want another video, talking hysterically about how Hegseth is a war criminal with no actual context, go watch Kyle Kalinske or The Hill or something like that. If you want someone who actually knows how all this works and what's really going to happen to Pete, I'm the guy for that. Okay. For a little bit of context, I am a retired Green Beret. Not only that, I was a SOTAC, a Special Operations Terminal Attack Controller. That is the guy that calls in the bombs from the planes on targets like this. Okay. So we do know what we're talking about this. Now, I also want to say up front, guys, this is going to be very, very important, because a lot of people are going to get upset about this video, that what is morally acceptable and what is legally acceptable are two wildly different things on this topic. Okay, so let's jump into the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Stick with me to the end on this, all right?
Don't do that. Do it my channel. Do it to mine.
We're going to explain a lot of things in detail about how this actually works. Now, what happened? Okay, I'm sure we're all very well aware at this point of the airstrikes that have been carried out.
And again, I'm not giving this as a credible report by any means whatsoever. Again, this is just somebody on the right side of things and how they're trying to go about explaining this. Again, using his Green Beret, using his status in the military, to give, again, maybe more insight than we might have heard from somebody else that may not be, or have been actively involved in the military. But, again, I don't know what's going to be seen from this or how right he is. But again, the basis of this is that because they deemed them as narco terrorists, that they're pretty much free and clear to do whatever they want. And that's what these JAG lawyers are going to kind of try to present in court if it ever gets to that point, which, at this case, it's looking like it's going to get to that point.
Out on the drug boats, the cartel boats, the Tren de Aragua boats that have been trafficking drugs from Venezuela to the United States, supposedly, over the last couple months. Okay. This, however, is now making national news. All right. So as you see here, the order was to kill everybody. Author says Pete Hegseth murders and our war crimes president, with pictures of these supposed drug boats. Okay. So it says here, before the first Caribbean boat strike on September 2nd, Secretary of War / Defense, whatever you want to call it, Pete Hegseth reportedly issued a blunt order: kill them all. According to the Washington Post, Hegseth gave the verbal directive that meant there would be no survivors and no prisoners. The order was to kill everyone. As ordered, a missile was fired.
Now, again, he goes on to make this like one-to-one connections, and I'll fast forward in a second here, I guess, to where he kind of makes these comparisons, because the first one he gives is, again, between a land action and a maritime action, which, again, he should probably know that like the laws and the situations and the circumstances are much different surrounding, maritime actions than land actions, especially in the example that he gives. I mean, it's pretty clear to see the discrepancies, the differences in the two situations that was going on. But also the situation here that he talks about, and I'll let him go on and then we'll call it out after. But it just the examples that he gives don't kind of give the one-to-one connection that he thinks they are in this instance.
So, as the U.S. military watched, but as the smoke cleared, they got a jolt. 2 survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. And it says here, the Special Operations Commander overseeing the September 2nd attack, the opening salvo in the Trump administration's war on suspected drug traffickers in the Western Hemisphere, ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions. 2 people familiar with the matter said 2 men were blown apart in the water. All right, so what you're going to be told, all these military law experts and military lawyers are going to tell you here, this was either a war crime, if we believe that the killings were covered by the laws of war, or simply cold-blooded murder. All right, so that's...
and the other example, the other example he was talking about was the fact that I think it's ISIS that he was talking about that kind of had like the shoot to kill order, the shoot on sight order. But again, I find that to be, circumstantially just completely different and irrelevant to, again, these supposed narco drug traffickers in boats in international water. Like if you're roaming around, a town on land that is, possibly has ISIS terrorists in it looking to blow you up, looking to kill you. I think that's a lot different than, again, looming out in the skies in a drone, picking these guys out of the water, whether it's 2 of them or 6 of them in a boat, in a 20-foot fishing boat, right? Like, I don't see how those circumstances can kind of be made as like one-to-one comparisons, which are like the 2 examples that he gives in this, in this video. It just doesn't connect with me. I think it's pretty substantial, the differences. And again, the way you treat people under maritime circumstances, or whether or not he talks about like a stronghold. If you're taking a stronghold and you kill some of the enemy combatants, or you shoot some of the enemy combatants and they go down, right? Like there's nothing saying that you have to, rescue them or you view them as POWs, because they're still in the stronghold. They still could, you haven't determined yet that they, aren't strapped with a bomb. Like you may not see a weapon in their hands, but you haven't cleared that yet. Like, so it's a totally different circumstance. And I can see why you would be justified in, again, shooting up somebody that you was already down, but you just want to make sure that they're killed, make sure that they can't blow themselves up, make sure they can't reach for a weapon, as opposed to 2 individuals clinging to wreckage in international waters with clearly no way to be a combatant, even if they wanted to be, right? There's just clearly total opposite situations in this.
What this video is going to be about, understanding, are these actual war crimes? Because again, you're going to see the hysteria. You're going to see people say, the military lawyers and experts say, of course it is. Not so fast. And again, I'm going to reiterate throughout this video, what is morally acceptable and what is legally acceptable are 2 vastly different things. I'm not going to tell you that I agree with the decisions that are being made, but I can tell you there is a ton of legal context that goes into this. All right, first thing we have to understand up front before we even jump in, this is critical, it's extremely important to understand this, okay? When it comes to the rules of land warfare, the international humanitarian law, the Geneva Convention, the Hague Convention, all of these things that dictate what is either legal or not legal in a war zone environment, is that there is a gigantic difference between combatants and civilians. Combatants are considered lawful targets. Civilians are always considered unlawful targets.
But what he doesn't bring up is the fact that even in the circumstance of being combatants, in the terms of like maritime engagement, once you've blown their ship up, once they're shipwrecked, once they've, thrown themselves overboard, they have no way to engage you, like the circumstances change. Like, again, so to go as far as to tell you that there's a big difference in enemy combatants and civilians, but not go on to tell you that it doesn't matter even if they are combatants, like there's still a way to treat them, is like pretty egregious to be left out of this video, in my opinion, especially being a Green Beret. Like there's a specific way that he was taught in order in which how to treat, prisoners of war, or somebody, again, that is no longer deemed a threat to them, that once it was, or 2 seconds ago was deemed a threat to them. There's no chance that he went through his whole Green Beret and military training without being taught, how to, again, go about treating prisoners of war, or the rules, guiding that treatment of prisoners of war.
Why is this important to understand? Because when we take it back to last February, all right, the decision that was carried out to designate international.
This is what he's talking about. This is the big, like, justification. This is the big, well, okay, they said this, so nothing else matters type of shit, which is the designation of international cartels as narco terrorists. You can see here it says, today the Department of State announces the designation of Tren de Aragua, Mara Salvatrucha, Cartel del Sinaloa, Cartel Jalisco, and the different organizations as global terrorists. Right, which he thinks now gives them the justification to do and act as they please. Like nothing can touch them now once they're deemed to be narco terrorists. That's just it. That's the ball game. That's the that's the trump card that they have, so to speak.
Cartels as international terrorist organizations, including which, in the very first one they put here today, the Department of State announces the designation of Tren de Aragua (TDA) amongst a bunch of other cartels as international terrorist organizations. Why is that important to understand? Why that is important is because essentially any of these narco terrorist boats that are being struck, and we'll get into whether they are or aren't later in the video, everyone on that boat is going to be considered an enemy combatant, okay? Because they are part of an international terrorist organization that is trafficking drugs.
Again, but even in an area of enemy combatants, there is rules of engagement. Right? Like, what are the rules of engagement? Because, I've seen ample video of, fucking footage from soldiers in Afghanistan or Iraq, right? Where they needed to be either shot at, right? Like, you can't just go ahead and start fucking, like, you need confirmation. You need, the okay from the higher ups. You need to be talking about these things. You don't just open fire on, random houses and shit without permission, right? Like, you need to be, there's a strict way in which that you have to go about the rules of engagement, even in a time of war, especially at a time of peace. And again, not being talked about, not being brought up here. And again, he doesn't talk about the fact that it's regardless the fact that they are enemy combatants, right? So let's go on to the second strike. If he's trying to justify the first strike, there is no justification for the second strike, right? And that's exactly what he tries to do here.
To essentially kill U.S. citizens, okay? So these are legal combatants. What I also want to explain to you guys is we decide, the United States government decides pretty much who is legal combatants and who is not, for the most part, when it comes to this type of thing, okay?
Right, but we don't make up the international law surrounding that. We didn't make up the Geneva Conventions, right? We didn't make up, these different, rules and groups of fucking policies that are supposed to maintain some fucking humanitarian actions in and above the waves there. We didn't. We follow those laws. We follow those rules and regulations. But again, we're not just going to sit here and say, okay, we get to deem who we can kill and not kill. We just make up the rules and regulations as we go along here, which is what he's trying to say.
So what I mean by that is the narco terrorists, quote unquote, on this boat are legal combatants. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean when we get into the second part of what Pete Hegseth's supposed orders were, well, not the orders, but the carry-through strike we saw by Special Operations Commander to then further on strike those two survivors afterwards. Okay, people are saying that is what made this a war crime. Not so fast legally.
Again, this is all strictly contradicted by the chief prosecutor to the International Criminal Court that we just played before this clip. I just want to reiterate that, okay? As we're calling out this bullshit here, as this, former Green Beret is trying to justify these strikes that he absolutely knows better. But, again, he even says himself that he's not for the strikes. He's against them morally, but again, thinks that the United States has the power to make up its own laws and rules, and that in court, this, the designation of Tren de Aragua as being a narco-terrorist will again give this administration, an off-ramp, to not be prosecuted for these crimes.
I'm going to give some context to this. All right. And this context is going to be important because what you're going to be told by all these military lawyer experts is that the second part of this strike is what made this a war crime. Okay. Essentially that the first strike hits, there's two survivors, they're clinging on the side of the boat. And the decision to drop the second strike is now officially a war crime because if those combatants were no longer able to fight, they are automatically considered legally protected as prisoner of war or something like that. That's
correct.
Not how any of this actually works legally in target.
I mean, I don't understand because we're reading it. I don't understand how much more we have to read it from. Again, the Geneva Conventions, treatment of survivors. The Geneva Conventions absolutely applies at sea. Specifically, the second Geneva Convention, 1949, all about wounded, sick, and shipwrecked members of armed forces at seas. So even if they're members of armed forces, members of armed forces, an enemy combatant that was just shooting at you 5 seconds ago, what it requires, survivors must be collected and cared for. Article 12 says wounded, sick, or shipwrecked persons shall be respected and protected in all circumstances and treated humanely without discrimination. They must be rescued after sinking or attack. They must be rescued after sinking or attack. Let's see if we can read that, see if my mouse will work. Can I highlight this? Is this highlightable? Yeah. So right here, guys. I'll see if I can zoom in on this. Does this allow me to zoom in? Maybe you guys can see it a little better. There you go. Maybe does that help a little? Okay, so they must be rescued after sinking or attack. That applies even if they were enemy combatants. You can't just let the waves sort it out. No harming survivors in the waters after shipwrecked survivors. Attacking shipwrecked survivors is strictly prohibited. I'd say that's pretty clear under the Geneva Conventions, right? It's considered a grave breach, the war crime version of running over somebody's foot with a tank and pretending it was an accident. Captured survivors become POWs. If they're combatants, they're entitled to the prisoner of war status. They must be protected, fed, sheltered, interrogated. Rule applies. Torture is a hard no. No enhanced interrogation loopholes. Civilian, customary international humanitarian law. For civilians. Civilians under a strike, they must be rescued, receive medical care, must not be targeted again, must not be abandoned. War crimes for failing to rescue under the Rome Statute of the ICC, which we just discussed, which sets global standards for even non-members. Deliberate killing of shipwreck survivors, failing to rescue wounded combatants, targeting those in distress can all constitute war crimes. The U.S. isn't an ICC member, but it still operates under the shadow of these rules, and many are customary international law, meaning binding whether you signed a piece of paper or not. Right? So a lot of people can be, well, we don't follow on, we're not a member of the ICC. Well, guess what? We still have a tendency to follow the laws and rules that are customary under that, whether or not we signed anything or not. What's this one? The TLDR, but if a nation launches a missile attack in international waters, it must rescue anyone who's wounded, drowning, or shipwrecked, treat them humanely, give them POW protections, protect civilians, provide medical care, not attack survivors. Pretty clear that, I don't know, this Green Beret needs to go back to Green Beret class or, at least POW class and how to treat survivors and enemy combatants. I'm not sure.
Airstrikes or in combat in general. And I'm going to give you some context here. All right, so let me give you some context about why the idea that, okay, because a enemy combatant has been injured and they can no longer fight, they're just automatically protected class. Not true in combat whatsoever. So for anybody who ever is even in the infantry, as you may know, let's say we're setting up an ambush. Okay, we're going to ambush the enemy. Okay, the enemy is going to be walking down the road, right? As we're set up in our ambush, we're going to ambush them. Let's say all of these combatants are shot, they hit the ground. Okay, even though a lot of these combatants may be still alive and wounded and laying down and oh god, and they can't fight back, they're not automatically prisoner of war. Okay, I have
just a ridiculous fucking comparison in my fucking amateur opinion. Because what the fuck does that have to do with the situation undertaken in international waters? Right? So again, if you're setting up an ambush, right, and let's say the group's going down the road and they're enemy combatants holding weapons and you shoot, right, and they're all down, but you're not 100% sure that they're all dead, they still have their weapons, right? Or they still could be strapped with bombs. So clearly you're going to approach that situation a hell of a lot differently than you would, say, striking a 20-foot fucking boat from a drone with a missile and then with cameras from a long distance away, seeing that there's 2 survivors holding on to the wreckage that have no weapons, that have, again, that are in mortal danger if they are not rescued, right? Like, that's a complete and total different situation. They're nowhere near, because there very well could be somebody under that pile that you described that wasn't shot or that was shot in the leg somewhere that is very capable of fighting back still, that you can't visually see, right? You may think they're all down, but you're not 100% sure. Like, do we recognize how different that situation is? Like, you're not just going to run up on the group of guys you ambushed because, again, they were all, carrying weapons. You don't know who's fucking, carrying grenades or has a bomb strapped to their chest, as opposed to the situation we're talking about here in international waters of the 2 survivors clinging on to the fucking, burning wreckage of a boat you just took out with a missile. Not the same thing. Clearly, one is on the ground and the other is happening on the water, which has different rules and regulations altogether, as opposed to actions on land. Not to mention the specifics of the situation you just described, totally different and vastly different than the other one, the other situation. So it makes no sense to me why you'd bring this situation up.
It's called a first clear through, that I am allowed to basically put multiple bullets in every single body on that ground and ensure that everyone is dead on that target because they're enemy combatants.
Right, because you are unsure. They are still within reach of their weapons. They are still an active threat to you and your comrades, which would then give you the ability, which would then give you the right to make sure of their deaths, right? To make sure that they're no longer an active threat. That would be justified. Like I can see how that would be considered justified. Definitely not the same situation that you were involved in and that we're discussing and describing on the other hand, though. So total waste of your breath, a total waste of time. Great, awesome description of a story there from a military, but nothing to do with the missile strikes on the Venezuelan votes whatsoever.
Combatants, and on that first clearance through, I have the legal authority to do that. Okay, what I cannot do is clear past all of these injured combatants, do some different work, come back to them, and then essentially execute them afterwards. Okay, so this is just one example of how just because someone's injured does not make them a non-combatant. Okay, that's not how any of it works. When it comes to airstrikes, to give you some more context to this, there is a lot of different legal justifications that we use to carry on strike multiple targets after an initial strike. In Afghanistan, on all of the missions I've ever been on, we have close air support. Okay, you might have the enemy that are, get struck by an AC-130 or Hellfire rockets, and then what you'll have what is called squirters. Okay, somebody who may have been injured, who is now trying to flee the objective, which you would say they're no longer an enemy combatant. However, they are most certainly still considered an enemy combatant.
Again, a totally different situation. Somebody that is injured and actively trying to make it back to his post, trying to make it back to his, to his military fucking force, is still actively considered a combatant. Like he's still armed, he's injured, but still trying to make it back to, again, live, to be healed and fight another day, to possibly kill you at another time. So not the same whatsoever. Where are the fucking people clinging onto the wreckage in the international waters? Where are they running off to? Where are they running to? See how it's different? See how that situation's not the same? Like they're not going anywhere. If they're left, they're dead. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just how it's going to work. They weren't trying to make it back to Tren de Aragua. They weren't trying to make it back to Venezuela. They weren't actively attempting to escape, right? They were just clinging on to wreckage. That's how those situations differ.
You have not put on the ground troops to clear through, anything like that. There's a ton of different legal justifications that can be used here to carry on strikes, okay? You can say that this person was going to maneuver to a new position of tactical advantage, okay? There's a ton of different legal
maneuver to a new position of tactical advantage. Now, where would that be in the middle of fucking the ocean on, clinging onto a shipwreck? Where would they go?
Justifications that we can use through airstrikes to continue striking people that we initially struck. Okay, this is nothing new. It's extremely standard procedure. Now, this is where it gets complicated with these boat strikes. Okay, is that you have the initial strike go off, and then you have two people who seem incapacitated that are hanging on the side of the boat. How are they still combatants? Well, to be honest, there's probably 10 different justifications legally through the military JAG, okay, military lawyers, that can say, all right, well, if they were to survive, they're be able to continue to carry out narco-terrorism and all these different things. And because we can officially determine they're actually incapacitated.
Again, all the more reason for us to intercept them. What the fuck, dude? Holy shit. The more they get into it, the more that they prove the case that we shouldn't be doing this in the first place. Right? So if you're scared of them getting back somehow from international waters back into the hands of Tren de Aragua, wouldn't it be good for us to then go in ourselves and intercept them, interrogate them, fucking bring them onto the, you know what I mean? Detain them ourselves. That way we can be 100% sure that they don't make it back into the hands of the drug traffickers, or they don't get back into, the same business that they were in, somewhere down the line, killing some Americans or something, right? Like, wouldn't that be the way to do it? As opposed to potentially striking this ship, and then if there's anybody survives, well, then they get away, and then we can it makes no sense.
Can carry on that follow-on strike. Okay, so just to blanket say this is a war crime based off of that follow-on airstrike, that's never ever going to be the case legally. Okay, and so
again, I think he's kind of high in his own supply, right? I think this is kind of somebody that's been told that don't worry about what you do, that we have lawyers that have been, we have lawyers that'll take care of that. Just do what you're told, carry out your orders, and don't worry about the rest. We have different ways of handling that. Don't worry, it's a gray area and the Jaguar, and there's different ways in which they can get around that. I kind of seems like he's sniffing his own farts here. Like he's a little high in his own supply of what he's been told during his, Green Beret engagements, whatever he was involved in. And then he's kind of using that as justification to be like, we have more than enough ways to get around this, what is a blatant war crime, but it's just not prosecutable, right? You just can't be prosecuted for it. I think that's kind of the sentiment that I'm getting from this, at least a little bit. But, what do you say we dive into our last little aspect? Oh, this is something I wanted to show you too. Let me see if I can show you this. Oh, did I get rid of it? I think I did get rid of it, but it was funny because the Pentagon kind of held their little press conference at the same time as their little cabinet meeting this morning. And Jesus, if you guys got to see who was asking questions, Matt Gaetz, Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec, like you wouldn't have recognized a single person other than right-wing MAGA freaks asking questions at the Pentagon, after Pete Hegseth had basically removed the free press from the Pentagon. But yeah, it was wild to see who was asking questions. But let's dive into this. This is kind of a story that I wanted to touch base on here, because this is from Arturehi, who's talking about some U.S. volunteers in the front lines of Ukraine. And I just thought it would be good to kind of highlight for everybody, show a sign of appreciation for the people risking it all for, again, a country that they're not forced to fight for. They have no, they have no fucking reason to risk their lives for, but instead they do, like they choose to anyway. They find it important enough. They find love in the Ukrainian people, or they find love in defending democracy enough to put their lives on the line. And it was nice to see that Arta here, an Estonian YouTuber, was once in the Estonian military to show his appreciation for and to highlight, the actions of, I think this might be about one, but obviously there's more than just one. So this can kind of be, you can spread this story along a lot of lines, but this is titled "One American Equals 10 Russians. USA volunteers are legendary in Ukraine." And I'll see if I can find that other video from the Pentagon and the people that are asking questions in the background. But yeah, check this out. This is awesome. I really appreciate him and the shout outs and recognizing, the people of the Foreign Legion, the foreign members that are fighting over there. Again, just taking it on their own shoulders. And we want to show our signs of appreciation for them. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics. Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, my friends. Last week I made a video for you, American volunteers fighting for the Ukrainian International Legion or 3rd Assault Brigade or Azov, newly created international company or battalion. Well, you guys like that video a lot, and I have more footage. So today we're going to watch more American fighters or volunteers fighting for the Ukrainian International Legion or Army, whichever unit they have chosen. By the way, the most newly created Ukrainian international unit comes from Azov. They created an international battalion, and Kyiv Independent made immediately a report about it, and it's perfect because there's 2 different American Marines there, one of which was outside of the military for 10 years when the war started and rejoined not the American military, but the Ukrainian one.
Yeah.
He brought.
Just before we get too deep into that, I just want to show you this. Check this out. Check out the people that were asking questions at the Pentagon today. Check out the people that were asking questions at the Pentagon today. Ready? So who's the first one? We'll go to the first one. Here's Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz gets to ask a fucking question at the Pentagon for some reason. Why is he there? What's he doing there? Remember what he was accused of, alleged doing, and his friend was stealing IDs, and they were, trafficking women across state lines, and you know what I mean. But anyway, he's allowed to ask questions. The next person, let's see here. The next person asked. I don't know who this is. Not sure, but I'm assuming she's right wing. Yep, Laura Loomer gets to ask questions, ladies and gentlemen. And then it gets worse. It goes on. I'm not sure who any of these other people are. I'm not going to lie. No idea. I'm not going to say anything because I don't know who she is. Not sure who this is. Not sure who this is, but I'm assured he's got some sort of Christian channel that he's doing for Trump. This kid probably too. Chad and Brad both got right-wing commentary positions, I can almost guarantee. And then see, who is the other one? Yep, there he is. Here's Jack Posobiec. So these are the people now asking questions. These are the people now representing the free press at the Pentagon. But yeah, I thought that was rather comical, frustrating, infuriating, but also like pretty telling. All right, let's dive back into this one. Sorry, I had to show you that.
His own whole Marine Corps experience, and now he's teaching that to the Azov fighters. Let's watch it. This guy, his name is Uno, and I love him. He's so cool. Uno could be an Estonian name, but I'm guessing they use it in America.
It's
also.
misfire. So I fire.
Infantry officer.
That name. Maybe me. Headphones.
23-year-old Uno fits the classic image of a US Marine. But since early 2022, he has been fighting for another country's flag.
So he's 23. Honestly, looks older, behaves older. You know, war ages you. Training ages you. I like this man a lot. And I think he's going to give you a lot of reasons to like him also when he speaks.
After years of service with the International Legion across the front line, Uno was looking for a new challenge. And when Ukraine's legendary Azov Brigade announced the formation of an international battalion, the timing couldn't have been better.
Dumb ways to die. If I die, I was very scared. It wasn't instant. I was in a lot of pain. And this isn't what I love doing. I have a lot of regrets.
First of all, I love the humor in any situation. I love dark humor, any kind of humor. If I get into a bad situation in life, make fun about it. I love humor. Massive plus points here. You cannot survive any war if you don't have humor. He's like a pure breed American for me. Look at that. Shoots an RPG. Thumbs up. I mean, nothing, no words. This is just very American experience right here. And they bring that to Ukraine. I love that.
I think I always wanted to be a soldier. My dad was in the army, and my grandfather had fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And so, like, it was just kind of built into me. It was in my blood, per se.
Wait, is this the kid that lost his eye? Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Is this the same kid they called? I thought he's called him Uno earlier in the video, and I'm not sure. I thought there was a kid from America that lost an eye, and they called him Uno, obviously because he had one eye, and then wore a patch. I'm not sure if this is the same kid. Clearly doesn't look like it, but I'm not sure how long ago this was kind of filmed or anything. But yeah, that's a question I'd be kind of curious of. Is it the same kid?
Everybody in my family kind of knew what was coming as I got older. And then
very much Rambo vibe with the band, like heads. How do you call this, bandana or whatever it is with the Ukrainian flag? Also, grandfather fought World War II, Korea, Vietnam. What the hell? And then the father was in the army, I'm guessing for decades. I don't know, but looking at the temperament and the way he holds himself, comes from a military lineage. And that's a very common thing in America, not so much in Europe though. But in America, I hear there are these generational military families. Grandfather, father, sometimes mother even, or sometimes both parents in the army, and the daughter or son, they also enlist Marines or Army or Navy or Air Force. It's different in Europe. Us Europeans, sometimes it's difficult to understand. What do you mean a military lineage? What do you mean? But that's in America.
I'm going to skip forward to he shows the kind of the combat footage here.
If you see one of the best soldiers that you've ever been around in your life get killed in this war, it tends to make you think twice about being here. So I think that made a lot of people go. For me, I had lost a lot of close friends early on, people that really became family to me in the beginning. So in my opinion, the best way to honor them was to hang tough and keep going.
Again, people don't really, in the movies, it doesn't really show. I mean, Band of Brothers and like greatly made shows, they show you. In the war, you're infantry. You can be the best infantryman in the world, best shooter, best survivor, best whatever you are. are you going to be able to handle the fact that you will lose friends, best friends, people you're connected to? Don't matter how good of a soldier you are. If you cannot handle that mentally and fight the next day with perfect precision and aim and calmness, that's it. The handling of the weight of losing big number of your loved ones, of your friends, personal friends, you cannot really teach that. Yeah, it's something you go through, you get really burned in life, and then you learn that, but you cannot teach that. Continuing with Americans in Ukraine, I have a video coming from the Kremina forest. It's a big forest where fighting has been happening forever, actually. It's one of the oldest front lines in this war, actually. And here we have an American soldier volunteer shooting an RPG in a firefight. That's an American volunteer. And I'm guessing the cameraman is Colombian because you can hear. Well, see, another shot the first one, give me another one. Puts it in and does not twist the detonator, And there's a misfire. I didn't know if you could hear the click, the trigger mechanism went, but it didn't fire. Second click, second misfire. Twisting the detonator.
Be careful.
Guy says, be careful. I don't know which accent this is. Is this maybe Colombian? And the third click, third misfire now. They're gonna change out the missile. The grenade, sorry. And this time, puts it in, it sticks out more, twists it, should be firing this time. Yeah, bada boom.
Just to show that, there are people undertaking these things, putting the weight, basically of the world on their own shoulders, and are there without, being told to be there, without being forced to be there, without being ordered to be there. Just Americans using their skills that they've learned in the military to go over there and help the Ukrainian people. And, it's something that should be commended, right? And should be highlighted. And it's good to see, YouTubers like out there and different people on this space kind of recognizing from people from all over the world too. This was, just in this, instance talking about the United States and people from America over there fighting, but people from all over the world, from countries from all over this fucking globe in Ukraine fighting for, the foreign legions and in different units inside the Ukrainian military. Oh, but yeah, check this out. Check this out. I just came across this. Different images of Trump dozing during today's cabinet meeting. Fucking this guy. This guy is like, if you can't stay awake at a cabinet meeting, like we got problems, dude. We got some issues that we need to discuss. Like, what the fuck? Like, you got 47 people and cameras from everywhere around you, and you still can't stay awake? Jesus Christ. And here, check this out. Check this out, where he says he was questioned about the release of the president of Honduras there. And he says, that was a Biden horrible witch hunt. A lot of people in Honduras asked me to do that. I did it. I feel very good about it. If you have some drug dealers in your country and you're the president, you don't necessarily put the president in jail. Listen to this bullshit. Like, okay, so what are you doing to Maduro?
Drug dealers in your country.
Well, let me see if I can. Ready?
A lot of people in Honduras asked me to do that, and I did it. I feel very good about it. If you have some drug dealers in your country and you're the president, you don't necessarily put the president in jail for 45 years.
Now, let's see if we can put that statement from Donald Trump against the evidence of the CIA and our different intelligence agencies that linked directly the president of Honduras to these different cartels, to these different drug organizations, for his direct involvement, his direct, financial gain, or, fucking him telling the police what to do or allowing these shipments to go out. Like, he was prosecuted in the United States for his involvement. He wasn't prosecuted in the United States for other drug dealers in this country, you dumb bastard. Like, who do you think is going to believe that? Who do you honestly think is going to believe that? So here he is once again lying through his teeth.
Is a Biden-inspired witch hunt.
His letter impact your decision?
Unreal. And I'm curious, like, is there anybody in the intelligence agencies that worked on these investigations that is getting fucking pissed off? Like, because he's directly throwing your work under the bus. He's telling you that you're shit at what you do. Your findings don't mean shit. You were lying about what you were talking about. All this evidence and the facts that you presented in this case to make sure that he went away for 35 years. That was all fucking nonsense, bullshit. Like, is anybody else going to step up and be like, no, actually, he was directly involved with these cartels. He knew about it. He fucking profited financially from it. He, allowed the shipments to go through. Like, we're talking about 400 tons, just to let everybody know. 400 tons. Okay. All right, back at it. Sorry, I just wanted to show you guys that.
You get the idea, you get the point. It shows how chaotic things can be, and your equipment will fail you. That always happens. It's about how you react to it. 3 misfires, let's change out the grenade, twist. F you, but it's said in a very calm way. Sorry for laughing, man. It's the only thing he says, nothing else.
Yeah, there's one dropping the grenade.
Talking about the Mavic up in the air. It's not
Again, in case you're just joining us, we're looking at footage from different Americans on the Ukrainian front lines right now. Different situations and different portions of the battlefield here.
an FPV. It's a Mavic dropping grenades.
They hit here like twice.
Grabs the Kalash again. Into the shelter. Ooh, that was close. And that was...
You can hear the explosions outside of the bunker there and how close they are to him.
That's an artillery barrage. In God we trust. An American flag. Now look at his calm face.
Wow, that was a close one. That was very close.
Yeah, okay.
And that is what you call a miracle. That's 7 meters away. That's tank fire. You're meant to die from that.
Tank fire 21 feet away. Jesus Christ. And obviously, if
7 meters away,
if you haven't seen yet, you can see the "In God We Trust." You can see the American flag. So again, clearly represented as an American on the battlefield.
Hey, you watch a tree disappear. You tell me you aren't meant to be here. Nobody likes holding ground. We'd rather assault tree lines. But sometimes that's the order. You don't know.
So what's the difference between holding ground in his
helmet over my kneecaps?
So yeah, on the back in the trench, Russian helmet, US helmet on the kneecaps to protect against shrapnel. I don't know if the Russian helmet will do the job. The US helmet definitely will. Oh, hell, man.
Oh, tits. That's a lot of pressure.
Oh, tits.
We lose a lot of
so
guys.
American, man. Yeah, a brave man.
To contusions and shrapnel.
Yeah. That's like digging a foxhole.
I mean, but you can hear the activity going on around him, and I didn't see where that exact video was coming from, nor do I know if he kind of saw where it was coming from, what area of the battlefield. But I mean, you can tell how active things are around there.
American volunteer under a barrage, but this time, by the sound of it, I'm guessing it's a thermal barrack. Listen to it. This is not artillery which is about to hit. This is these rockets, thermobaric rockets that suck the oxygen and air out of this explosion zone, and then the air collapses, making such like a wave explosion. It's strange. It will shatter your eardrums if you're too close to it. Shatters the windows and everything. Listen. That's insane.
Yo, I say we start fucking up that tree line. I'm serious.
Wow, listen to how many impacts there
Why
are.
they're talking about that?
You see how like what that was like? I don't know how many impacts was that, but that was a lot of impacts.
That's insane.
Yo, I say we start fucking up that tree line. I'm serious.
Why they're talking about effing up
That's crazy. That's a lot of fucking hits there.
again with the politeness, man. What are you again from the south or what? Fuck it up. Yeah, and now they're gonna F it up with grenades.
Where the hit? There it is. Shit. This thing is hard to aim through.
Potential hit. Potential hit. Potential hit. Potential hit. Fire the ball. Fire the ball.
Fuck.
Same spot. Same spot.
What do you mean it's fucking?
Same spot. Go.
It's not fucking.
Go and get the other.
Again, communication in any kind of battle.
See the Americans struggling with the Soviet equipment, huh? Still getting used to using different types of equipment and different ammunition. But yeah, let's see if we can dive into because I just thought that was pretty cool for Arthur to really kind of highlight the the American actions, or at least some of the American actions on the front line there, to show their heroism, to show their their ability to command to command the battlefield and to command action there, because it's important that we highlight everybody, again, everybody that's volunteering their time, their energy, their life from different areas of the world, different portions of this world, to go over there and fight for the Ukrainians at a time where it's most needed. Should be commended, should be highlighted, should be appreciated. So again, pretty cool of him to do that. But yeah, let's see if there's any recent movement going on in there, and then I'll let you guys get out of here. So even in the deep state map here, that still hasn't been closed off. This area still hasn't been closed off. Looks like this has changed a little bit, but now we're talking about the highway just east of Mirnorod here, just north of Pokrovsk. Doesn't look like too much has happened. We'll go back to yesterday. You can see a little bit of movement in the area here. I'll go back. You can see but looks like it's more in the Moskovsk area as opposed to Pokrovsk area. You can see just this one where my mouse is right now, just north of Mirnorod. Looks like that changed as well. But other than that, that just looks like more contested area. So per the deep state map here that we've been looking at, still haven't been able to, as opposed to the Russian propaganda that you've been hearing, still does not look like it's been able to totally enclose that area. We did look at the Syriac map. Let's see here. Put this on. The Syriac map that I was showing you guys the other day. Dum-bum-bum. Hold on, where is it? Syriac. Which is right where? Oh, here it is. Live map. Oh, that's a different one too. Wow, they got a lot of maps going on here. I like this. But that's not it either. Where's the one that I showed you guys the other day? I thought it was this one. Let me just go to the website. Ukraine. No. Oh, yeah, here we go. Defensive lines. That's from what? An hour ago. So this is Ukraine-Russia Day 1377. Now this says it's practically surrounded, but not totally surrounded. Let me see if I can go to the website. Syriac maps Ukraine. What the fuck is it? ISW? No, it's not the ISW. It's the other one, right? Syriac Maps Live. Just take me to the friggin' website. I just showed you guys the other day. This is always what happens on the show. Like, I pull it up for you guys once, and then for some reason I can just never find that same thing that I want to find you again. Anyway, you guys saw it the other day when we were talking about the discrepancies between the deep state map and the Syriac map that we were looking at. Why, for some reason, it's not coming up anymore. Let me see. It must have been something that I could pull up. Resume browsing. Maps Ukraine. Resume browsing. Maps inside Ukraine. No, anyway, it's not gonna help for me. It's not gonna work for me. It never does. Anytime I wanna show you guys something that's just a failure in a failure in progress. Let's see what this map says. Let's see what this map says. I'll put this on the screen for you guys instead, because this is the live map. Let's see here. Amir Narad is right here. So this even this map is a little different, as you can see. Even this map is a little different, because this shows a totally different situation. It does show the Russians have overtaken that road. How do I make this bigger? How do I make this bigger? How do I make this bigger? Why is it like only half the page? Well, this mouse thing's really pissing me off. Anyway, but yeah, you can see here how different this map is. So it's showing an opening here just north of Pokrovsk. Does kind of show the entirety of Pokrovsk undertaken, but that's something totally different than the deep state map shows. So again, this is kind of why you have to take everything with a grain of salt that's being reported and kind of try to sift through, the middle of the bullshit. Because again, this little portion right here, this little piece is just not represented in the deep state map. So that would be somewhere in this area here, where it seems like it would be overtaken, and it's just not showing that. Showing it as disputed, but just not fully undertaken. All right. So I appreciate you guys. I'll let you guys get out of here. Let's start thanking some people. See if we can get you on here so you can enjoy some other content today. Enjoy the rest of your day with your friends, family, loved ones, whoever it may be. Let's see if we can get into thanking some people on the old Venmos for sending over a financial contributions, whether it be $1 or $2. You guys are just fantastic. You always manage to help out, and I appreciate you for doing so. Let's see if we can get into this. First off, Linda, thank you so much. Dame, thank you so much. These are from the other day, but still, I like thanking you guys. Peter, thank you so much. Nicole, Allison, Dame again. Garrett, thank you very much, my brother. Thomas, thank you very much, my man. Yakov, thank you very much. Suzanne, Travis, again. Elaine, Jim, Suzanne, you guys are fantastic. Johanna, thank you so much. Nancy, as always, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Can't wait till we start seeing some fruits of our labor, some gains here. Not to mention, we should be talking about the election going on in Tennessee. If I got a minute here, might as well, right? So we got the Tennessee special election going on. Democrats and Republicans both pouring money into this election. Let's see here. This is just an NPR article kind of talking about the congressional special election in Tennessee has become the latest battleground for Democrats and Republicans seeking to craft a winning message ahead of the 2026 midterms. Historically been a deep red Trump, heavily favored Trump area, but seems like there is more and more chance, more and more pressure being applied by the Democrats in the area, which is good to see. Democrats have overperformed their 2024 margins in special elections this year by an average of 13%. Let's see, I get rid of that. Let's see here. In the final stretch money, let's see, campaign focus and goes on cost of living. What is that? That's tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Let's see. Does this say? The special election in Tennessee has become the latest. Doesn't say here, right? Democrats in Tennessee. When is the actual what's this one say? This is a Slate article. What to know if Democrats can retake the House next year. Look at what happens in Tennessee today. On paper, Republicans should win this race in a blowout. On ground, things are a lot more complicated. See here, the White House doesn't often call Tennessee. Yeah, that was a sign. Donald Trump actually was forced to call Mike Johnson when he was, going around the old state of Tennessee to try to con voters, to try to force voters. Yeah, I'll see if I can find that clip. It's probably on, probably already on social media somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. God, this fucking mouse is pissing me off. Mike Johnson, Trump. Yeah, here we go. Check this out. This was Donald Trump feeling the pressure, right? Feeling the pressure here in Tennessee, a state that he shouldn't have any problems, shouldn't even have to pick up the phone in, according to Donald Trump. Shouldn't even have to do it. But, let's take a look at this because he was forced to be put on speakerphone here by Mike Johnson. Listen to what he said.
Two things above all else that bothered me. Number one, she hates Christianity. Number two, she hates country music. How the hell can you elect a person like that? So I just want to give my total support, and he's had it right from the beginning, to Matt Van Epps. He's going to.
So again, just the latest instance of election interference, or supposed alleged so-called election interference by Donald Trump, trying to again lie about the Democratic candidate while also trying to pressure the Republicans to vote for the Republican candidate in the Tennessee special election. But again, just the fact that he felt it necessary to have to call Mike Johnson, or I'm sure it was something along the lines of Mike Johnson asking feverishly Donald Trump to please call in or do some sort of appearance. It would really go a long way type of shit. And this is what Donald Trump decided to do. Yeah, just I'll do the call, hold me over the microphone, and I'll just lie about the Democrats while, pressuring other Republicans to vote for fucking Van Epps.
He's going to be a fantastic congressman. He's going to represent you so well, and we'll keep our agenda going. And I'm going to make a call tonight about 7 or 8 o'clock. I'm doing a tele-rally for him tonight. So if anybody wants to listen, basically I'll be saying the same thing.
Donald Trump, the president of the United States, now forced to have to do tele-rallies for Tennessee special elections. Like, if that doesn't tell you the kind of, the pressure he's under, right? The poll numbers that he's facing and what he knows could possibly happen, especially after seeing what happened in the other election results that Democrats dominated. He's now fucking seeing that he's going to have to do some work, especially or even in Tennessee now, to try to pull out this special election. So good signs to see. A good bit of momentum going on here, and at least if we can have a good showing, if we can make this a lot more difficult for the Republicans and a lot closer than anybody expected, especially in an area like what was it, the 7th district down there in Tennessee, would go a long way to prove the shift that has been taking place inside of the American citizenry ever since Donald Trump took over in his second term. It became ever more apparent to the people that even voted for him that he was lying about all his promises and that he was in there to enrich himself and just grift on the backs of his own base like he has been doing for quite some time now. But all right, let me get into thanking people here on YouTube and then let you guys get on your way. I appreciate you. Carol, thank you so much for your $5 contribution. Shout out to you. Best vibes for after the bend in the Tennessee 7th district race today. Best of luck from the 4th district. Well, thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. Good timing for that right there as we were just talking about it. But yeah, hopefully we have a good showing there. Hopefully it goes at least a long way to prove a point, right? Doc Patel flyover. You're right. You never know. If you're going to look up at any portion of the day today while you're in this country, chances are you might see Cash Patel's private jet flying overhead because he's put more miles on that thing than fucking who knows, than Donald Trump put on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. That's for sure. But thank you so much. Not only Mark, thank you, Carol. I appreciate you guys. Shout out to you. Thank you, Slacks, as well. Heroyam Slava, right back to you, my friend. Love right back to you from everybody here. Happy late Thanksgiving. We appreciate you, brother. I hope you have a great day. Same thing to Wes. Dollar value down 11%, predicted 10% more by 2026. Yeah, I mean, again, he's killing the economy. He's killing, our standing on the national stage. He's killing the value of the dollar. He's doing a lot of harm. And you're 100% right, Wes. So shout out to you. Thank you as well for Bridget. Thank you so much for being here for 7 months. What's up, Boston? Brian from snowy Pennsylvania. I want some snow. I want to see snow. I miss snow. I want to go skiing. Have some fun for me. Take some pictures. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Just saying that goes for you as well. Thank you for the 5 gifted. You are a saint. We appreciate you so much. Please make sure we're thanking Just Saying for the 5 gifted memberships that she was so lovely to give out in the chat there. So please, make sure we're reaching out and thanking her. Mark, thank you so much. Shout out to you. Fact, Trump's first term had no attention span. First term, Trump had no attention span. Well, he still hasn't. Like, it's only gotten worse. And you're 100% right, but it's only gotten 10 times worse since then. Jeff, thank you so much for the 10. Shout out to you, brother. Hegseth said he would be back. He said he would back commanders making judgment calls. Sounds lacking in facts. Like, again, it's just so he has that, the plausible deniability, right? He's trying to distance himself from these commanders and their actions, even though, again, we've talked about this a lot, like the very Hitler way of governance. Like, after the euthanasia program inside of Germany was blown up and it became public, and Hitler was finding himself taking a lot of heat and a lot of backlash from the German citizens for killing, his mentally challenged people that he deemed, unworthy of living, people that had, deformities or whatever it may be, German citizens. And he was, found to be involved in that And then from that time forward, he really never put his name onto legislation, whether it be for the Holocaust or, any illegal orders. Basically what he did, he'd take his commanders or his people inside a room, he'd have conversations, he'd kind of beat around the bush, and then they would kind of be left up to their own devices to, make conclusions as to what he wants to see done. But therefore, it was all on the commanders. It was not on Hitler. It was not on Himmler. They kind of, gave them these vague kind of things that they wanted to see done, and then it was on the commanders to make sure that was done. Didn't matter how it was done, what policies and processes they used to get that done, as long as it was done. But it was never a direct. It was never a direct order. It was never a direct statement. It was never signed by Hitler or Donald Trump. It was usually signed by people like Goering or people that really didn't give a fuck. At the end of the day, but it's a very Hitler way of governance, where it's just kind of they're having to interpret what these people want to see done, while also keeping that plausible deniability. So Jeff, 100% right. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out to you. Thank you so much, Chewy. What's up, Chewy, my man? I appreciate you, dude. Shout out to Chewy for the 10 gifted memberships. Let's go. Thank you. And make sure, if you're one of those 10 gifted memberships, 10 people in the chat that are receiving those gifted memberships, to thank Chewy. Even if you're not, please make sure we're thanking Chewy. Mark, what's up once again? And thank you again, Chewy. We appreciate you, brother. Mark, back at it like a crack addict. What's up, brother? Thank you so much. After Trump, will anyone face justice? Well, hopefully, what we have to do is make a bigger example of people, right? Like, this is supposed to be the time in history where we make the biggest examples out of these people so that people are deterred from doing this in the future, right? So this is the opposite of the time that was supposed to be allowing these people off the hook, or just allowing them to slip into the shadows after their fucking, their term is done or whatever. Now is the time to be showing people, like holding people accountable, showing examples to the world. Just long sentences, fucking publicized, courtroom sessions, televised trials, right? Let's make sure we put these people on blast so that, all of these politicians that are coming into power or thinking about getting into power know damn well that they will be held accountable if they continue to do the same shit, right? So hopefully, yes, people will face justice. But again, with the power of the pardon and the power of the Supreme Court, it's very unlikely that it's going to be Donald Trump or, people associate. I don't know. But it remains to be seen. Again, when the power switches hands, you never know what could be switched and changed. So hopefully I'm a yes on people will face justice. But yeah, Mark, appreciate you, brother. Once again, 2020 Lafayette Square incident, historic moment. Baby Trump tested his authoritarian love. The training wheels since that moment were off, and Trump's actions have only escalated since. Well, it's been normalized and he's been allowed to get away with it. So there's no reason why he wouldn't, especially now where he kind of seems like he has nothing to lose, right? Like where, he's either going to just totally steamroll democracy and continue to stay in power, or, he's just going to fade into the shadows and he doesn't have to worry about it anyway, knowing that he's got that, the overwhelming power from the Supreme Court that they were granted to him, right? But you're 100% right. He's gotten only more emboldened. His actions have gotten only more dangerous, only more blatant, only more in your face, broad daylight. Again, he's only gotten fucking more incompetent as his old age is creeping up on him. But, shout out to Mark. You're 100% right. Same thing to Susie. Appreciate you, Susie. Much love to you. Right back at you. Thank you for the $2 contributions. Mark, again, big day. Another day for Mark. Vote, and it could be the start of bringing justice forward. Viva democracy and go Gators. Well, I agree with everything except for that last part, but I will support you supporting your team. But it's illegal for me as a Boston guy to say go Gators. I just can't say it. I will be arrested on the spot. But yes, vote, people. Get out there and vote. Vote blue. Please, that's what we need to do. Let's harness this momentum. Let's harness this anger. Let's harness this frustration that we all have with what's going on in the government, with what's going on in our daily lives, and use that to our benefit. And let's, pick the right people when we hit those polls. So JD, thank you so much. Mark, again, thank you so much, dude. Boston Brian has to spell check me. No, that's all right. It's notoriously tough for some reason to read these super chats. It always has been. I don't know why. But it is. So my apologies if I'm fumbling up on that. But yes, another great show. I appreciate you guys. Please be around tomorrow for the doubleheader. We have our Wednesday afternoon show that is also simulcast to this space. So make sure you check that out. And then we also have our tomorrow night show, our evening episode at 8:30 p.m., 5:30 here on the West Coast. Until then, please make sure you're hitting that notification bell. That'll notify you when I go live, when I release videos, when I release shorts, all of that type of thing. That way you don't miss any of the content. Again, none of that content behind a paywall. You don't have to come out of $1 out of your pocket to see anything that I've ever said or produced or anything like that. All I ask is that you know, if you find some value, if you find some entertainment, you know, if it's just killing a couple minutes in your day, and you find this community, you know, a good place to do that, and you're in the financial position to do so. So please think about contributing to the channel, whether it be via Venmo. Here, you can send in just $1 or $2 is all I ask for. Anything above and beyond that is totally 100% up to you. And again, if you're not in the financial position to do any of that, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. All of us are right now kind of living paycheck to paycheck. We're trying to, you know, rob Peter to pay Paul to try to figure out how we can get these bills paid. And, you know, we're all in the same spot. So I appreciate anybody that does take that leap of faith and, you know, supports this community. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the doubleheader. Until then, stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. Get out there, find your nearest protest, find your nearest rally. I appreciate it, though. Make sure you're keeping your head on a swivel. Make sure you stay safe out there. But again, until tomorrow, I'll see you. I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everybody who contributed today. You guys have been fantastic, and you always have been, and you always will be. So I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow. All right? See you guys. Thanks, guys. Thank you to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way out, wherever you guys are. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate you, big guy. We really hope everything okay with this time. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do. We appreciate you even being here today. But yeah, hopefully everything's okay. We wish him a speedy recovery. What's up, Jesse? Thank you. No, now I gotta fix it. I don't know how the hell to fix it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you later. Enjoy some fabulous content.
In the hell was that all about? Hey, you got a little chubby going there.
Yesterday's a hard word for me. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. And God bless the United States. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing. Eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Call them dumps, big massive dumps.